much coming in. It's 1 o'clock. I'm Jeff Strausser. I'm the Corvette brand quality manager, and my job sort of is advocates of you. I represent the customer. I also represent the dealers back to the Corvette team. If it comes to service communications out to our dealers, training, any service campaigns, whatever, they're more than likely coming from me or my request and my team. So what I'm going to go over today is, first off, I'd like to know how many C8 owners do we have out there? 1, 2, 3. All right, so take a listen here. This is some good information. Always, I encourage you to make sure you read your owner's manual because it's very critical, not when you just have a problem. But maintenance on this car is different from your C7. So did you own C7s before? No? Well, that's a good thing, because then you don't have that maintenance in your mind. See, well, this one's a little bit different than that. So maintenance-wise, it's pretty simple. We have an oil life monitoring system. There is no need for a 500-mile oil break-in. So C7, we had that 500-mile. You need it, especially with the dry sump system. But if you look at the engine over there, it's totally different. Your dry sump tank on a C7 was remote located in the front, and on this one, it's mounted right to the engine, so it's directly mounted. There's also another oil pump in that one than compared to the LT1, 4, and 5. So just the oil system is a little different. So coming to oil changes. So you have an oil life monitoring system in your car. You also have a transmission life monitoring system in your car. Those are the ones you want to watch. So Chevrolet offers a complete care program. So your first oil change will include your engine oil and filter, along with the canister filter. And the canister filter is located right here on the side. The aluminum shear panel on the car will have to come down. So it's a roughly a 2.2 hour job to do the oil change along with the transmission filter. All right, so that's what's going to happen. And if you wait until the oil life monitoring system comes on, that will happen roughly 65 to 7,500 miles, and that coincides with your transmission filter. That transmission filter is very critical because the fluid of this is the life of that transmission, similar to your engine. So it's very critical that you follow the canister filter changes. The first one's at 7,500. The second one is at 22.5, and after that is every 22.5. Your canister filter has to be changed. The oil to the transmission, you just follow your oil life monitoring system for the fluid. Now, if you're one of those individuals, you don't drive the car very much, what we recommended is after 3 years, you should be changing your engine oil. And after 44,000 miles, you should be changing your transmission fluid. Okay? That's critical. Changing if you track your car. So if you track the car, we recommend that you add an additional 2 quarts of oil. That's added here. That's roughly an hour and a half job because you have to detrim the back of the car, remove the panel, remove the air cleaner to get at this plug. That's the only way you're going to do it. You do not want to remove any other fasteners back here because that holds components in the transmission, and now you just destroyed an $18,000 transmission. So I'd recommend get to your dealer, make sure that they service your car. There's no need to get your car changed sooner. The oil change sooner, it's really not necessary. If you want to go ahead and do it, go and do it, but you want to make sure you stay with that 7,500, 22.5, 40 to 4,500 miles, and everything 22.5 after that. Okay, that's very critical. Fluid-wise, that's transmission fluid is very, very sensitive because you got to think of this. This is the differential. This is the transmission. It uses one fluid. One fluid. Normally you have a differential fluid and a transmission fluid. Now you only have one. And that's why it's critical to use the fluid that's recommended. It is not cheap. I'm going to tell you right now, it's $42 a quart. So it's very, very expensive. But the transmission is very expensive, and if you've had a chance to drive the car, you will enjoy how expensive that is because it's just as fast as God gets the news. It's very quick. That's maintenance-wise. If you by chance happen to automatically by chance reset your oil life monitor by accident, you're in there messing around, you see your oil life, you hit set or your check button and all of a sudden it resets. What do I do now? Do I follow the oil life monitoring system? No. You should have the oil changed after 3,000 miles and then have it reset. All right? If you by chance do it for the transmission fluid, that's 44,000 miles, and then you have the transmission fluid changed. And you're looking at roughly 10 quarts of oil in this transmission to have drained out. If by chance you track the car and add those 2 additional quarts of oil up here, make sure you communicate that with your dealer. Because when they remove the canister, they're going to lose approximately 0.8 of an ounce of fluid. And then after that, they're going to check your transmission fluid. But if you've added that additional 2 quarts of fluid, now the fluid's way up here, and when he removes that or she removes that drain plug, 2 quarts of hot fluid's going to drain out, and it's not necessary. So if you've already added that track fluid, all you need is the canister changed. There's no need to add additional fluid. Okay? This isn't maintenance, but some tips. This car is not too friendly when it comes to you doing your own work. You want to make sure you know what's going on. So this has an e-boost system on it. It's electronic brakes, and we started that in 2020. So the system is electronic. It's tied to the battery. As soon as you remove a brake caliper, it's going to sense, or you open that door, it's going to go through a self-test. And if you have the calipers off, it's going to go, uh-oh, I've got air in the system. You're going to get a message on the DIC that I says don't exceed 60 miles an hour. Your brakes are messed up. And it's not going to be friendly. And all it was is the simple not disconnecting the battery. So this is not an old school car. It's more modern. You need to make sure you're reading what's going on, and the best way is to get a certified technician to do your work, at least hopefully someone from a certified or signature Corvette dealer, and they'll be able to help you with that. Are there any questions? Yes. All right, so the question, very good question, and I'm glad you mentioned that. The question was, is there an issue if the technician goes in and changes to a more performance-oriented filter? Air filter? Air filter's okay. Engine oil filter, transmission filter, I wouldn't play with that. I would stay OEM. Especially transmission filter. I don't even think there's one aftermarket out there. And if there is, I would certainly stay away from it. Because what we're going to do is when you have that issue, if by chance you do, we're going to ask what filter's in the car. And if you've got an aftermarket filter, we don't know the performance of that filter, things are off. I said this in earlier yesterday. Think of it this way. Cosmetically, it's okay. But once you start messing with the chassis, the powertrain, the brakes of the car, now you have become the chief engineer of the car. You're no longer Tadge Jector. You're no longer Josh Holden. You are now the man or the woman. So you're going to take that responsibility on. If something goes wrong, please don't look at General Motors to fix your problem. I've had this already on the C8 where customers, and no disrespect to the suppliers, they're there to make money, but I'm just letting you know the stories and the experience that I have. I've got it global. They put 20-inch wheels on the front. Customers on the track, and they were having some stability issues, ABS, and hey, I've got this warning message. So it comes into the dealership. We then get a field service engineer involved. They send the download to our performance engineers that do all the validation of the car. And they go, man, the front wheel speed sensors don't look right on this thing. What kind of wheels and tires do they got on it? And they told me 20-inch wheels. I said, dude, get the right wheels back on the car and sell wheels if you have a problem. Guess what the problem was? 20-inch wheels. They look great. I'm just telling you, we spend, our development engineers are very, very knowledgeable individuals. Much more knowledgeable than anybody on social media. They know the car. They're very passionate about the car. They've spent a lot of time overseas on racetracks, and there's no better person to develop the car than our own. So if you want to rely on somebody else, that's your risk, is what I'm saying.
Go get that for me.
Air filter, there shouldn't be a problem with it unless you get one of the oiled one and the oil affects the mass airflow sensor. Somebody oils the filter and affects the sensor wire. That could be a problem. Okay. Any other questions? Good question. So the question was, if you do by chance add the additional 2 quarts of oil, do you have to remove it after you track the car? Absolutely not. One and done. You're done adding it. Now, when it comes time to changing your fluid again, you're going to either make that decision, do I want to go overfill, or do I just want to go with the 10 quarts? Because if you go overfill, the two extra quarts, remember, we're pulling the air cleaner, everything off of the back of the car to get to this plug. That's the only way. Now, there's technicians and people out there that, oh, well, I'll take the breather off and try to force the fluid through. Have you ever tried blowing through a straw and it's plugged? You can't do it. This is the vent of the transmission. There is no other vent. It comes up here. So there's no way of forcing the fluid through. So right now, the recommendation is to pull the plug. Engine oil on this is different. How many people check their engine oil with the engine running? The C8 owners do. That's a totally different deal on this. And the reason why they have to have the engine running, and I thank you for the question, the reason why you have to have the engine running while you're checking the oil is because of that valley pump in the valley. If you do not have the engine running, you're going to have all that engine oil in the valley. You're going to underfill. You're going to actually overfill, because when you pull the dipstick, it's going to be low. You're going to overfill it, and then you're going to come into the dealer with the white smoke complaint because you got oil in the top of the heads because you overfilled it. So very good question. You need to have the engine running on a C8 at operating temperature when you check the engine oil. So the question was, is if I overfill it, can I, if I add the 2 quart, will it help with the durability or the longevity of the oil? No, because you got to remember, you have 72 gears in here, 72. That's a lot of gears, including the differential and everything else. When those things are moving around, you're generating little dust, okay? That's why we have 2 filters. The sump filter to catch the big stuff, the small canister filter to catch the smaller stuff. So if you leave that fluid in there longer, it's not going to be a good thing. For one, the filter could possibly plug, and you don't want to do that. And then just the lubricity properties, because there is clutch packs in this thing, and clutches just like the automatic transmission. This is sort of, if you look at this, you have sort of 2 clutches here, odd and even. It's a clutch pack similar to an automatic, and then the back side of this is just like a manual transmission. So the answer to that is no. It doesn't change that. But good question. Thank you for asking. Any more? Lovely. Thank you very much for your patience and your attention.